What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Sport Universe commentary video. It's a new name I came up with. It's very exciting. What I want to talk about today is the first big signing of free agency, and that's James Mccann and the New York Mets. The New York Mets make pretty much the first big move of anyone in free agency. Obviously, the White Sox did some moves, but this is the first big name that's come off the board in terms of James Mccann and the New York Mets. It was reported a couple days that they were close to a deal. Talks kind of stalled for a couple days, and then the Mets and James Mccann finally put their heads together and came to a deal of 4 years and a tad over $40 million. It's not officially out what the details are, but that's what it's seeming like. There's a lot of things I want to talk about here. First off, my reaction to it. Secondly, James Mccann versus JT Realmuto. Third, who I expect to come next off the board. So, let's start with my reaction. As a Mets fan, I'm very excited that the Mets got James Mccann. I know the whole JT Realmuto James Mccann situation, which I'm going to talk about, but sign James Mccann. He's definitely the second best catcher on the market at this point. Well, was from the beginning to JT Realmuto, obviously, and they were able to sign him for big discount compared to JT Realmuto, who's asking for a lot of money. Will that price come down? Probably. But I don't want the Mets waiting this long to sign a catcher who is a position that was on their checklist for this offseason for sure. And now they have the catcher and they can focus on other things. And getting him at a significant discount compared to JT Realmuto allows the Mets to fill a lot more holes on their team, which will take me to my last part of the video, but I'm not going to get there yet. The Mets have a lot of holes they need to fill. And while they have a lot of holes, there's a lot of players on the market that can fill those holes. And that's why they needed to start with the catcher, get that off their checklist, get that worry away, and now they have a lot of options to fill the other holes they need. Center field, pitching, relief pitching, and they have the money to do it, especially with Steve Cohen. Next thing I want to talk about is JT Realmuto versus James Mccann. It's a big debate right now. Obviously, JT Realmuto is better. Everyone can agree with that. However, James Mccann isn't that much worse than JT Realmuto. He's very close. SNY came up with a graphic. Obviously, the Twitter account on SNY is pretty funny. They do some pretty funny stuff, but they came up with a graphic from 2019 to 2020 season. So they came up with a graphic kind of showing the comparison between JT Realmuto and James Mccann. And, I mean, it's over 2 seasons. The 2020 season, 60 games. But it's over 2 seasons, and they're not far off. I don't remember exactly. I'm going to put the graphic here, but JT Realmuto and James Mccann aren't that far off. The only real difference between the stats that they show are the home runs, which I think is an 11 difference, 10 difference. I think it's 11. And the average is close. Everything else is close. In terms of the offense, I think that, yes, JT Realmuto is better. James Mccann is not that much worse than him. And the other argument is JT Realmuto has done it for an extended period of time. James Mccann has only really done it for the past 2 seasons. Yes, that's true. But going back to the money, the Mets are only probably cost them $12.5 million a year. And I'm going to take that compared to what JT Realmuto wants in the years that he wants. Especially because we have Francisco Alvarez waiting. Not really waiting right now, but in the system, getting ready for probably 3 years down the line when he can come up and be the catcher for the Mets. And hopefully learn from James Mccann. Now, defensively, JT Realmuto again is better, but James Mccann is again very close to him. I mean, there's so many stats. JT Realmuto is better. That's across the board, yes, true. James Mccann is a very close second, and you kind of have to think here. Money and skills. I don't know where most people land on that, if they'd rather have spend the most money, get the most talent, or spend a lot less money and get very close talent. In my opinion, as a Mets fan, I'd rather do the spend less money, get equivalent amount of talent, because the Mets have other holes they have to fill. If they went into this offseason and didn't need another pitcher, didn't need more relievers, didn't need a center fielder, I'd say you got to go for JT Realmuto because he should be your main focus. But they have other things they need, and starting off with James McCann is a great situation. Last thing I want to talk about is who I think is going to come off the board next. There's been a lot of rumors floating around, and the only real people I've been seeing in those rumors are James McCann, George Springer, Liam Hendriks, Brad Hand, people like that. And in my opinion, the next big name to come off the board, big name I consider James McCann, JT Realmuto, George Springer, Trevor Bauer, those five. So James McCann's off the board, so now there's 4 left. I think George Springer. Oh, also the relief pitchers, Liam Hendriks, Brad Hand. But as the rumors are starting to come in, I think George Springer is going to be next. I think he's going to be a New York Met. Yeah, I have some bias, but it just makes so much sense for the Mets to go out and sign him. And the fact that a couple days ago they were engaged with him, meaning they were talking to him a lot, just goes to show that the Mets want George Springer. They have some other competitors that want him. Blue Jays want him. But it just makes sense for the Mets to go out and sign George Springer, and I think George Springer is going to be the next one to fall. I'm going to say within the next week, George Springer is going to sign a contract with the Mets. That's it.